Hey, happy Friday, everyone. Hope you are doing well. It's a beautiful day. The weekend is here. We have one more day of work, at least I do. And then, in particular, I have a 4-day weekend. I'm off on Monday, I'm off on Tuesday of next week. Being that Tuesday is Veterans Day. And the school district decided to give us Monday off as well. So it made it into a 4-day weekend. Anyways, this is In the Raw, unscripted, unpracticed, unedited conversation. We've been talking about amazing grace. And in particular, the last few videos, we've talked about grace and works. And do we need to have works to deserve grace? Do we need to do things to deserve grace is what that means. And we've been answering that question. And, the last time we were talking about how sometimes we suffer, we go through difficult times in our lives. And, even though we do that, even though we go through that, God's grace is always there. Even though we go through difficult times, and many of those because of our decisions, our choices, but God's grace is always there. And some of you might have heard the story of the prodigal son. You might have heard it, or you might have read it. And this is a story of a son who decided to ask his father for his part of the inheritance and left, and just basically blew it. He blew all the money that he got. And many times when we talk about the story of the prodigal son, we focus on that son that walked away and that took everything, and that he blew all the money. Yet in that story, a huge focus is about the son that was actually faithful the whole time, because his father had two sons. And so the other son stayed home, and he was faithful, and he did everything that his father asked him to do. We kind of forget about that son. And so when the son comes back, the other one comes back, there's a celebration. And, his brother gets angry, the one that stayed. He gets angry and comes to his dad and he says, look, I've been faithful all these years, and you gave my brother all this attention. You're giving him all this attention. And the father's like, no, don't think that. Don't let that throw you off. I do love you. I do see everything you've done. But right now, we need to celebrate the fact that your brother was lost and now he is found again. It's frustrating because I think that sometimes we make a big deal about those who have lived a very difficult or really sinful life when they come back to God. And we make a big deal about it, which, rightfully so. And it's something powerful when, God transforms people's lives and people are changed, and they leave, their addictions, they leave, the life that they were living, the reckless life that they were living, and they come to reality. And we make a big deal about it because it is a powerful thing. But, it almost makes those who have been faithful for years, maybe since childhood, like myself, I was born and raised in a church. And it almost makes them think, well, maybe I should do something terrible just so that I have that same attention, or just so that I have that, that type of a testimony. Sometimes I used to think, man, I don't have anything really dramatic or impressive to say, about my life, because I've always been, in church, and I grew up in church, and, I've never really done anything terrible, and so sometimes we feel that way. But, we need to rejoice that someone else has been taken, what someone else has been taken through. We need to rejoice in that. But, we can't help it, and sometimes we're jealous about that. But God says, don't let that jealous heart get a hold of you. God does notice everything that we do. And he says this in Galatians 6. Paul says this in Galatians 6. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap, if we do not give up. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. When he says, don't get tired of doing the right thing. Don't get tired of doing good. What he's saying is, at the proper time, you're going to reap a reward. And I know it's sometimes frustrating because we think, I want to reap it now. I want to have a reward now. We think we know the proper time, but God says, no, please trust me. Just don't get tired of doing the right thing. Don't get jealous and don't think about jumping into rebellion. Keep doing it because the proper time, I promise you, you will reap a reward. So we don't do good works to get God's approval. We do them because he's called us to become more like his son, Jesus. And we offer love and forgiveness to others. And one day we will be rewarded for what we do. That's the grace that God extends to us. That motivates us to do good even when it's hard. So yes, grace is not based on our works. Grace is not based on what we do. Grace is not based on the bad things that we did and now, we've walked away from all that mess. That's not what grace is based on. Grace is based on, and it's not based on, doing good all the time and always being there like the other son that was always faithful. Grace is based on God's love for us. That's it. On God's, love for our lives. Because he loves us, he gives us grace. All right. Well, I hope you have an amazing day today, Friday, and amazing weekend. And we will continue talking about amazing grace the next time.